What's going on, guys? It's Danny from Slow Restoration, and today we are actually going to check out the Bronco and do kind of a damage report on it, see what we broke. As you can see, it is sitting a little lopsided. I know the airbag leaks down a little bit, but it was sitting a little lopsided when we came back. So we're gonna, first step here is to get this thing inside and put it up on a lift and give it a quick once over and see what actually broke, what needs fixed. I know the brakes are really soft right at this point. It's probably not going to start because the flywheel is pretty well trashed. We do have a new flywheel. Hopefully we can get that swapped out. And it does have an intermittent missing problem, so we also need to diagnose that. Hopefully we can get this all figured out, because we do have another off-roading trip planned for it. So the first thing we need to do is find the keys, because I'm not sure where they're at. Here they are. See if it starts. No, not at all. So you get it in the garage, and from this angle on flat ground you can really see how much it's leaning. A lot of that is just this airbag leaks down, so we'll put some air in that and level it up and throw it up on the lift and see what kind of damage we caused. It actually did really good. I was really shocked at how well this thing does off-road, but let's get up on the lift and see what we broke. We're up on the lift, and immediately I see a major problem. If you look at this side, they have a kind of a box built under that airbag, and if you look at this side, we're floating. That whole box fell out somewhere and is laying somewhere, probably in the woods or in a mud hole. So that's definitely why we were sitting down on this side. Obviously there's a big space missing there if you look at this side. So yeah, we'll have to rebuild that and tighten up some of these welds. Unfortunately now it's all dirty, but you know, it's a mud truck, trail truck, whatever you want to call it. That's the way it goes. So that, and we also, obviously we knew this, we lost quite a bit of our body mount bushings. The top is still there, but the bottom, the washer just rotted out and the bushing fell out. So we're floating there. We're good there. We're good there, and we're floating here, and I believe in the back somewhere there's some bushings that are also missing. Maybe not in the back, maybe it's in the front. Yep, there we go. Driver's side front is actually missing the top and bottom bushings, so we're just flopping around there. This side, although, is still intact for the most part, so I'm not sure how much of that we're going to worry about right at this point. I know most people said take hockey pucks and throw in there, and they work really good. If we get to that, we'll definitely do that. If not, we'll let it fly. So let's get some of this stuff addressed and see what else we can do. Looking at this transmission, how hard is it going to be to take out? I'm not sure yet. Hopefully all the bolts back out all right. I'm hoping I can leave the exhaust, but it is pretty tight there. So we'll see. It is also a hydraulic clutch, so we'll have to bust that apart, unfortunately, and hopefully that bleeds back out. Sometimes when you bust those systems down, they don't bleed out properly without replacing stuff. So we don't want to spend a lot of money in this thing, so we're definitely going to do it as budget as we can. So because it's going to break, it's going to keep breaking, and we don't care. It's what it's built for. That's why we bought it. Again, we didn't build it. We're just going to maintain it and run it and have fun with it. I don't see any brake leaks. Actually, there's really no major leaks anywhere on this thing, surprisingly. But our brakes are very little brakes, so we're definitely gonna have to drop it down, check the master cylinder, and might have a bad master cylinder, or like I said, there's no leaking lines anywhere. Maybe our fluid leaked out in the trail, but we need to figure that out too. As you can see, we got some pretty good progress here in getting the trans dropped down. We got the back drive shaft unhooked, front drive shaft unhooked, cross member unhooked, everything unplugged, and the bell housing bolts unbolted. We do have a pole jack under here, so we're just about ready to drop this down. Probably gonna see if I can't get a hand doing this. If not, I might lower the lift down and put the jack under and try and slip this back. See if anyone's around to lend a hand. If not, we're gonna just go for it. So we need to get this done. Transmission out with a little bit of help. That's actually the new flywheel. The old flywheel is right here, and as you can see, there's a couple spots on it. Let's find it. Yeah, the teeth are completely ground down, so there's no wonder this thing was having issues. So let's get the new flywheel thrown back up on there. Get the flywheel on, clutch and pressure plate back on, and the transmission back up in there, and get this thing buttoned back up. All right, it is the next morning. As you can see, transmission is still out. We were getting ready to put it back in. We did get the new flywheel installed. It's up on and bolted on. The issue is I want to pick up the pressure plate and clutch disc to put it on there, and I heard something rattling around. Sometimes it's just these springs, but as you can see, there was a piece of metal floating around, and it's out. It kind of encapsulate these springs on the inside, and this little notch right here, it's kind of a hook, is what these springs kind of take up a little bit of the slack, not so much slack, but the shock as you release the clutch, and then this goes over and bounces off that pin so it doesn't keep spinning, and this is broke. So believe it or not, we were able to source one. Someone had this in stock for a 1988 Bronco 2.9, so we are going to run out and get that. It's just not worth putting it back together broke. It's going to fail, and we'll just be right back into it. Another thing we did, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but these rear U-joints, as you can see, are really beat. No one has a listing for these for some reason, but obviously they are replaceable, so I might actually try and take this apart real quick and take one with me and try and match it up. Hopefully we can match that up, because once I take it apart, it's so loose it's going to be destroyed. It's not going to be able to go back together. So I'm kind of risking it by taking this apart and taking it with me. If no one has these U-joints and I can't get them, then we're kind of dead in the water again. So we'll see. But again, these are so bad that it's a good chance with this next trip they may fail on us, which again would be pretty catastrophic. Just front wheel drive on this would not do hardly anything. So let's get this taken apart, go pick up our clutch, and get this thing put back together. We got transmission transfer case lifted back up in there. We got to hook everything back up. Of course, we got the new clutch pressure plate installed. Let's get all this stuff hooked back up and keep rolling. Got everything put back together except for the rear drive shaft. We did pick up some universals, so we'll see if they actually fit or not. I did not take the old ones out because it didn't sound promising that the auto parts store was going to have them, but I did pick them up. We'll check that in a minute. But we have everything else put back together, so throw it in neutral, and it's the moment of truth to see if we fix the starting issue. Oh yeah, sounds way better. No more grinding, first of all, but even after we put the starter in, it just did not sound good. So these things always sound a little funky when you start them anyway. It was kind of an issue with them. I'm gonna call that success. So on to the next thing. Onto the rear drive shaft now. We did, like I said, pick up some U-joints. They did not have a listing for this. Actually, most stores didn't have a listing for any U-joint in the rear shaft at all, and the ones that did only had for that end and not this end. So we picked up a U-joint for the front drive shaft. They are greasable. They're greasable in the cap, and it appears so far the cap diameter seems to be good. We're going to measure the cross. That actually looks pretty good. I don't know why they would use different U-joints. Sometimes they do, but as you can see, this one is just completely, let me set the camera down and try and get a good shot here, but this thing's completely wore out, and there's actually a piece of the, we can spin it around here, yeah, this cap here is actually cracked out. So I don't know, I'm a little afraid to not change them unless these don't fit, and obviously we can't change them. But let me show you how loose these are. So they have a whole lot of slop in them. This one actually was changed before. It does have a grease fitting in it, and it's snapped off, so water was just getting right in there, mud, dirt, grime. So let's get these clips popped out and see if we can get one of these U-joints out. For those that have changed this type of drive shaft configuration with the U-joints, these are a pain to do. It's got a funny little bearing kind of deal with a spring in the center of this, because there's two U-joints back to back. So I've did these before, but they're always kind of a pain. Right there you can get a good idea how loose it is. We were able to get one side of this taken apart, and as you can see, there's a bearing in the center with a spring. These are just, you gotta, I don't want to really say you gotta know what you're doing, but you gotta definitely pay attention to what you're doing. You don't want to lose that stuff, and it definitely has to go back together in a certain order, and even for that matter come apart in a certain order. You really should mark this stuff too. Make sure all of this is lined back up when you put it back together. The weight is on the upside where it says Spicer. We'll have that referenced the same way also. So let's keep going on this, see if we can get these U-joints in yet. Got it all back together. The U-joints did fit, so if you happen to have a 1988 Ford Bronco 2, the rear U-joints, which they don't have a listing for, are the same as the front drive shaft. So here is why we did it too. As you can see, that cap is completely cracked out, and there is absolutely no bearings at all left inside. So got an airbag platform built. Seems to be decently solid. We didn't spend a whole lot of time. Made it look a little bit better than that side, and actually added a couple more small welds to this side just to keep that from breaking. Did add a little cross brace there. Look at it from this side. So that should hold us now for now. We may go back later again and clean this stuff up a little bit better, but definitely looks better than this side. This side's more of a triangle, so it kind of pivots right on top. This side goes on either end or either side of the axle tube, so it's got a little bit more stability. So I think we have pretty much everything else buttoned up. Drive shaft's back in, everything's tightened up. We went ahead and greased everything. Give it a quick once over. We will, I think I'm gonna put some plates, put some plates on the front. You can see the bumpers kind of pulling off of the front frame rail. They just kind of bolted on there, so we might run some beads on there and put some small strap plates on top to keep that from ripping off if we winch too hard. And other than that, just quick once over and we'll be ready to hit the trails again. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.